Post 1. I am a mother who buried a grandchild in her heart before she ever got to hold them. And now my surviving daughters are dragging my name through the mud like I am the problem. People who don't come from families where loyalty actually means something will hear my side and immediately jump to toxic and narcissist. That is the language now anytime a parent sets a boundary or refuses to take all the blame. I am not perfect, but I am tired of being painted as some heartless monster because I refuse to pretend my younger daughter did nothing wrong. I have two girls. My oldest, Hannah, has always been my soft-hearted one. Messy and emotional, yes. A little scattered, but warm. She calls to tell me about something funny she saw. She remembers birthdays. She hugs first and says thank you without prompting. My younger one, Maya, is different. From the time she hit her teens, everything turned into a debate. Food, school, clothing, friends. She discovered health and evidence and never put them down again. She would read labels at the table, roll her eyes when someone wanted dessert, lecture her father about his blood pressure like she was on rounds. It felt less like caring and more like being policed in our own home. When she got into kinesiology, she might as well have been handed a crown. Suddenly, it was clinical practicum, evidence-based, scope of practice. We were proud, of course, but the attitude that came with it was exhausting. If we drove through for fast food after church, she would pull out her meal prep like she was above us. Hannah took a different path. She didn't go to university, she worked, paid rent, stumbled with men, and kept going. When she told us she was pregnant, yes, it was out of wedlock, but we were overjoyed. Finally, a grandchild. My husband lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. It felt like our family was being handed something good after a long stretch of nothing but stress. I will not apologize for focusing on Hannah during that time. She was carrying my grandchild. The house became baby central the way houses do when there's a new baby coming. If Maya felt overlooked, that is her interpretation. She was away at school, building her future. Hannah was here, swollen ankles and morning sickness, needing hands-on support. From the start, Hannah's pregnancy had its bumps. She has always been a bigger girl, and yes, the doctor mentioned blood sugar and weight. They always do. Doctors today are obsessed with numbers. Hannah told us they were keeping an eye on it, that she was mostly fine. She was working, walking, laughing. There was no dramatic moment where someone told us, "This baby is in danger if you don't change everything right now." If there had been, I would have turned our kitchen into a diet clinic and watched every bite she ate. Then Maya came home for a weekend visit. Instead of just spending time with her pregnant sister, she arrived with a little care package and that superior smile. A mug, a bottle of vitamins, as if Hannah wasn't already taking the ones the OB prescribed, and a box of herbal tea. The box said all the right things. Caffeine-free, pregnancy-safe, gentle herbs. On paper, it looked fine. What it actually was to me was something new introduced into a delicate situation by a 20-year-old who likes to experiment. That night, in our living room, Maya made Hannah a cup. Everyone saw it. There was nothing sneaky. That is not the point. The point is that she insisted it would help Hannah relax and sleep better, as if she knew better than the professionals. Hannah drank it because she trusts her sister and because she was exhausted and overwhelmed and wanted to believe this time Maya's health obsession might bring comfort instead of criticism. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a sound I will never forget. Hannah screaming. There was blood. Too much. My husband went white. The paramedics were all calm hands and practiced phrases, which only made it worse. At the hospital, they didn't dress it up. The baby was gone. When your child is lying there sobbing that her baby is dead, your mind claws for a reason. Everything was fine, I remember saying over and over. Everything was fine, Hannah whispered. She gave me that tea. She said it like a confession and an accusation in one breath. In that moment, everything connected for me the way it would for any mother trying to make sense of the senseless. The pregnancy had seemed stable. We'd felt the baby move. We'd heard the heartbeat. No one had told us we were teetering on the edge. The only new variable that night was Maya's concoction. Yes, logically, I knew miscarriages can happen for many reasons. Logic has very little to do with what your heart grabs when it is in pieces. What my heart grabbed was my younger daughter pushed something on my pregnant daughter, and hours later, my grandchild was gone. The next days were a blur of casseroles, arrangements, and that empty nursery. What was not a blur was the cold, simple sequence I could not get out of my head. Tea, then blood, then loss. Maya kept saying, "It was just chamomile. The box says safe." She wanted to talk ingredients and labels. I did not want a science lesson. I wanted someone to acknowledge that her judgment had consequences. When she tried to argue about evidence in the hospital hallway, my husband snapped, "You were always experimenting." And I did not correct him. I am the one who called her university. I am not hiding that. I spoke to the program director and followed up with an email because these days, if you don't put something in writing, people pretend it never happened. I told them that a student in their health program had given an unapproved herbal mixture to a pregnant relative, that this coincided with a fetal loss, and that I was concerned about her judgment around vulnerable people. I did not demand expulsion. I did not call her evil. I said they needed to think very carefully about whether someone who takes those kinds of risks should be in a role where people trust her with their bodies. That is not malice. That is a mother trying to prevent anyone else from sitting in an ER watching their child's future bleed out. The school chose to revoke her scholarship and question her placement. Their decision, based on what they heard. They are adults. They saw what they saw. Maya left school. Now she says we destroyed her career and ruined her life. I see it differently. Actions have consequences. If you want to work in health, you do not play kitchen chemist with pregnant women. If she couldn't grasp that basic boundary, maybe she was not ready for that field. Years have passed. We have our rainbow grandchild now and a framed photo for the one we lost. We also have a thick, bitter distance with Maya that she insists is entirely our fault. She says we lied about her, that we turned the town against her. I say we told the truth as we experienced it. We repeated what happened. She brought the tea, Hannah drank it, the baby was gone by morning. I am not going to pretend that sequence doesn't matter because it upsets her. Now she has a lawyer telling me I'm some menace who has to be reined in. My husband is gone and cannot speak for himself. I am being reduced to paperwork instead of seen as what I am. A mother who watched her family shatter and refused to shrug and say, "These things just happen." So, stripped of everyone else's spin, my younger daughter brought my pregnant older daughter a safe herbal tea. My older daughter miscarried that night, and I told people, including her school, exactly that because I believed, and still believe, it mattered. Now my younger daughter claims I ruined her life and that I am the problem. From the outside, with no sentimental filter, am I the jerk for holding firm to what I see as the truth about what happened, even though it cost my younger daughter her career and our relationship? Update 1. People asked what actually happened once talk turned into legal paper. I wish I could say it blew over as a tantrum. It did not. It started with a couriered envelope from a downtown firm. I assumed it was something about my husband's estate. Instead, I opened it and found a letter from a woman named Nina, counsel for Maya, last name. Suddenly, my own child was the plaintiff, and I was a defendant. In bullet points, it accused me of publicly and privately stating that Maya caused Hannah's miscarriage, telling her university and scholarship board that she had knowingly administered an unsafe herbal concoction to a pregnant woman, continuing to assert this as fact even after learning of gestational diabetes and other complications, causing her grave reputational, educational, and economic harm. They demanded a written retraction, a promise never to repeat defamatory statements, and money. The last line, if we did not agree, they were prepared to pursue the matter in court. My hands were shaking. Hannah sat at my table with her daughter, cutting fruit. I handed her the letter. "She's really doing this," I said. "She's going to drag us through court over the worst thing we've ever been through." Hannah's mouth tightened as she read. "She's acting like we imagined it," she said. Like nothing happened. We hired a local lawyer recommended by a church friend. He read Nina's letter with a little frown. "She's not just going after you," he said. "She's going after the school, too. This is bigger than a family fight." "Can she do this?" I asked. "Sue us for telling the truth?" "People can always sue," he said. "The question is whether they win. The law makes room for people to talk about their experiences. It's trickier when those statements are presented as firm facts that affect someone's profession." "So now grief needs a legal disclaimer," I snapped. He suggested we start with a calm response instead of declaring war. He drafted a letter saying we were deeply saddened, that any statements were made in good faith based on what we believed at the time, and that we were open to a private family resolution but denied defamation. I thought that was generous. I even told him I'd consider saying something in church like, "Grief makes people say harsh things." Of course, Maya never meant harm if it shut this down. Nina's reply made it clear that was not enough. She attached copies of things I hadn't seen in years. My email to the dean with the subject line, "My daughter is a danger to patients." Screenshots from family chats where I typed, "Our family's position is that Maya caused this." A comment where I agreed that my younger daughter's obsession with trying things had cost us a baby. Seeing my own words highlighted like that, without the shock and nights of crying around them, made me feel exposed. Not guilty, just flattened. Then came the medical records, snippets of Hannah's chart, highlighted gestational diabetes diagnosis, poor glycemic control, missed follow-up appointments, a note, risk of fetal demise discussed with patient. Next to those, Nina had written, "Despite knowledge of these documented complications, your client continued to publicly assert that Ms. Maya caused the miscarriage and omitted all mention of the medical factors in discussions with third parties." I am not a doctor, I told our lawyer. I saw some of those words once in a 10-minute appointment while my daughter was crying. Of course, my mind focused on the thing I saw happen. She drank the tea, and then everything fell apart. He didn't argue with that. He just said, "I'm telling you how this will look to a judge. On paper, it appears you presented one cause with great certainty and left the rest out." He asked quietly, "Did you ever tell Maya about the gestational diabetes and those warnings?" "No," I said. "That was Hannah's medical business. And it didn't feel like the main thing." "Right now," he said, tapping the chart, "it makes you look like you hid context while insisting on a simple story." I went home furious at Maya and this Nina woman, not at myself. I called Hannah and vented that they were twisting things. Hannah just sounded tired. "I know it wasn't only the tea," she said, "but that doesn't change that night." Exactly. To me, nothing files down the link between what Maya did and what happened. The letters and highlights do not change the fact that I woke to my daughter screaming. For now, it is lawyers trading drafts. They want words like wrong and retraction and medical complications. Our side offers grief and good faith and multiple factors. It all feels very neat on paper compared to what that night actually looked like. Update 2. I assumed once discovery started, things would slow down. Instead, it felt like someone emptied our lives onto a table and started sorting. Our lawyer told me both sides would exchange anything relevant: messages, emails, school records, medical notes. I said I wasn't afraid. I've never hidden what I said. He gave me that careful look again. "That confidence," he said, "is part of why they think they have a case." The school records came first. He sat me down with a stack of printouts. At the top, my all-caps subject line, "My daughter is a danger to patients." I remembered the night I wrote it. Seeing it now in a court bundle, it looked harsher than I meant, even to my own eyes. In the body, I'd written that Maya knowingly administered an unsafe herbal concoction, and the result was fetal loss, and that the program needed to reconsider whether she was fit to work with vulnerable people. "They're going to say you presented cause and effect as fact," our lawyer said. "Not we are worried, but this is what happened." At the time, that's exactly what we believed, I answered. We weren't inventing drama. He slid over an internal email from the program, phrases like serious allegation and unsafe substances bouncing between administrators. I realized for the first time how completely they had taken our version and run with it. Then came the family group chat, blown up to fill a page. There was my message. Our family's position is that Maya caused this. We are united on that. When this is shown to a judge, our lawyer said, it looks like you were formalizing a line, not wrestling with uncertainty. I wanted to say we needed that unity to keep from collapsing. On paper, it read like a proclamation. And then again, the medical notes, gestational diabetes, poor control, missed appointments, warnings about risk, all highlighted. "They'll say you knew it was not a simple pregnancy," he said, "and yet you told story after story that made it sound like everything was textbook until the tea." We moved on to my own deposition prep. He ran practice questions. Did you tell people your daughter caused the miscarriage? I told them she gave the tea and, it's yes or no, he reminded me gently. I hated how narrow that felt. Real life doesn't fit in yes, no boxes. Court does. When the real deposition came, Nina was exactly what I had expected and dreaded. Calm, organized, unflinching. She walked me through my understanding of the pregnancy, the night itself, the calls after. Then she started narrowing. When did you first learn Hannah had gestational diabetes? Later in the pregnancy, the doctor mentioned it. Did she discuss increased risks, including fetal loss? She said there were risks, yes. Did you mention this diagnosis when you told the church, your extended family, or the university about the miscarriage? No, I said. It didn't feel like the main thing. But you did mention the herbal tea every time? Yes, I said, because that was the last thing that changed. She asked why I had called the tea unsafe in my email. I said because it wasn't prescribed, because my daughter in a health program had decided on her own to give it. No recalls, no lab report, just what I saw. After Hannah's second pregnancy, she asked, when her OB discussed that the earlier loss was likely related to uncontrolled gestational diabetes, did you continue telling people Maya caused the miscarriage? Because that's what we believed, I answered, and even as I said it, I knew how dug in it sounded. By the time it ended, I felt like I'd been boiled down to a handful of quotes. My grief, my reasons, my late night pacing, none of that fit into the transcript. I went home and told friends that the whole thing was a circus, that the lawyer tried to paint me as if I deliberately lied, that the system didn't care about what we'd lived through. They hugged me and told me I was strong. It helped for a minute. What I refused to accept then, and still struggle with, is the idea that because a chart had warnings, the thing that pushed us over the edge somehow becomes irrelevant. Paper and experience are not the same. I lived the experience. Update 3. The motion hearing was my first time sitting in front of a judge over this. Our lawyer framed it as just a step, a chance to ask the court to throw the case out before it went further. It felt like a test of whose version sounded more reasonable to a stranger. Seeing Maya at the other table was like stepping onto a different planet. She looked composed, professional, not like someone we'd supposedly destroyed. That stung more than I want to admit. Our lawyer argued first. He talked about grief, about cultural expectations, about how families speak bluntly in pain. He said we had spoken in good faith about what we believed happened, and that turning that into years of litigation would be unfair. Then Nina stood up and took the wind out of the room without raising her voice. She laid out the timeline, the tea, the miscarriage, my email, the school's response, the years of us repeating that Maya was the cause. She read my phrases out loud. Unsafe herbal concoction. Result was fetal loss. Danger to patients. She put the family chat screenshot on a screen and pointed to, our family's position is that Maya caused this. This is not raw, unfiltered grief, she said. This is a sustained assertion of causation made to institutions over years. Then she brought the medical records up again alongside my statements about everything being fine. She did not dramatize, just let the contrast sit there. And then she called Tasha. Under oath, Tasha said what she had to say, that Hannah had complained about the diet, mentioned dodging appointments, and that after the miscarriage she had told Tasha it was easier for everyone to blame Maya than to face how bad her numbers had been. Hannah stiffened beside me. I knew exactly the conversation that came from. It had been a private moment of despair. Hearing it flattened into one quote felt like a betrayal, even if the words were technically accurate. The judge listened. He asked a few questions about how public our statements had been and how the school had responded. In the end, he ruled that there was enough there that the case should go forward. In his careful, neutral language, he said something like, given the medical context and the way our statements had been presented as facts to third parties, it would not be appropriate to dismiss the case at this early stage. In plain language, we were not getting out that easily. In the hallway, Hannah broke down. They're making it sound like I wanted to blame her, she cried, like I planned it. You did nothing wrong, I said. You lost a baby. You were drowning. They're punishing you for surviving the only way you knew how. Behind us, Maya walked by with her lawyer. She didn't look at us. I called after her. asking if she was satisfied, if dragging her sister's worst day into a courtroom made her feel better. She didn't answer. Our lawyer's tone changed after that hearing. Less, we'll get this tossed. More, we need to talk seriously about settlement. You told the truth as you saw it, he said. But between the school documents, the medical records, and the co-worker's testimony, there is enough risk here that a judge or jury could side with her and award more than what is currently on the table. What's on the table, he meant, was a deal. We say we were wrong to state that Maya caused the miscarriage, acknowledge medical complications, agree to stop framing it that way, and pay her. In return, she drops the case. To a court, that's a practical solution. To me, it felt like being told, say you were wrong and pay for the privilege, or we'll keep tearing your family apart on the record. Update 4. This is the part where people expect some big turning point. In reality, it was a slow grind of numbers, drafts, and uncomfortable conversations until I signed something I still don't agree with in my heart. Our lawyer sat at my dining room table with a spreadsheet and a settlement proposal. If we go to trial, he said, your legal costs could double. If you lose, you may owe more than this offer, plus have a judgment on record saying you acted maliciously. If you settle, you control the terms. The proposal said we would sign a statement that we were wrong to say Maya's actions caused the miscarriage. Acknowledge significant medical complications, including gestational diabetes. Post the statement on my social media, have it read at church, and send it to extended family. In exchange, Maya would drop the case against me and Hannah. Promise not to bring further claims over the miscarriage. Accept a fixed monetary amount and agree not to publicly attack us over it. So we pay her and we stand up and say we were wrong, and that's that, I said. It doesn't use the word lied, he said carefully. It uses wrong. Legally, that matters. Emotionally, it felt the same. Hannah read the draft and went pale at the key line. We were wrong to say that Maya's actions caused the miscarriage, and we want to state clearly that we do not believe she intentionally or unintentionally caused the loss of our grandchild. I don't know if I can say that, she whispered. Our lawyer said quietly, you're not being asked to declare the T irrelevant. You're being asked to stop presenting it as the single proven cause. Because medically, you can't. At home, Hannah and I had one of the ugliest fights we've ever had. I know my numbers were bad, she said, tears in her eyes. I know I didn't follow everything perfectly. You know that too. You've always known. But you liked having one simple explanation. I know you were pregnant, and then you weren't, I said. And I know your sister brought something into my house that never should have been there. Why should I pretend that doesn't matter? I'm not asking you to pretend it doesn't matter, she said. I'm asking you to admit it wasn't the only thing, and to stop acting like your grief gives you a free pass forever. That word again, wrong. Suddenly, everyone wanted me to wear it like a name tag. In the end, the decision was made less with feelings and more with a calculator, our lawyer's projections, the balance in my account, what another few years of this would do to Hannah's mental health and my granddaughter's life. I signed. I told myself I was doing it for Hannah, to stop her reliving that night every time a court date appeared on the calendar. I told myself I was doing it to keep a roof over our heads. I did not tell myself I was admitting the truth because I still do not believe one piece of paper outranks what we lived. The day at church felt like a performance in a play I hadn't auditioned for. The pastor said a few words about healing and seeking peace, then handed me the microphone. My hands shook. I read the statement, the whole thing. When I reached the line, we were wrong to say that Maya's actions caused the miscarriage. It felt like swallowing stones. People shifted in the pews. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked vindicated. Later, a woman I've known for decades hugged me and said, "That must have been so hard. Thank you for being honest." Another simply said, "Well, now the truth is out," in a tone that made it clear she meant her version of truth, not mine. Posting it online was worse. Typing those words underneath years of grief posts and hitting post felt like letting someone scribble over my memories. Comments came fast, some kind, some critical, some asking why we had let everyone believe something different for so long. The money left our account quickly, legal fees, debt, a chunk on the mortgage. The trip I'd wanted to take and the small kitchen fixes I'd been planning evaporated. Hannah says we got off lightly compared to what Maya lost. I don't see it that way. But that's irrelevant now. The signatures are dry. The statement is out. The law's satisfied. What I did not expect was how much that statement would stick to me. People look at me differently. Not openly hostile, but with a layer of doubt. Like every story I tell now has an invisible asterisk. Remember, she had to retract something big once. For someone who has always been the one who remembers correctly in this family, that is its own kind of punishment. Final update. It has been a little over 2 years since the statement and the Facebook post that will be attached to my name forever. The lawsuit is over. But the sentence, for me, did not end with the court file. Maya has her papers saying we were wrong. She has whatever money the settlement gave her. She is off elsewhere, living a life that does not include us. Fine. She wanted distance. She has it. What I live with every day is something quieter and, in some ways, crueler. Being treated like a risk in the very family I spent my life holding together. When my granddaughter was born, I was there for everything. Night feeds, doctor visits, babysitting at a moment's notice. I practically lived at their place. I stepped up when the father was half present and Hannah was hanging on by a thread. Now I am on a schedule. It started small. We'll just come to yours this week, it's easier. Mark's mom already offered to watch her. Reasonable things. Then I realized I could count down the weeks since I'd last had my granddaughter in my house without another adult present. One afternoon, it all came to a head. I was watching my granddaughter at Hannah's place. We were talking in the kitchen, and I made some comment. I honestly don't remember the exact words, about when someone in the family makes a bad choice and a baby dies. My granddaughter, coloring at the table, piped up, "You mean Aunt Maya?" Hannah walked in right as she said it. Her face shut down. "We do not talk about that around her," she said. "She asked," I said. "I'm not going to lie to my grandchild." "I'm not asking you to lie," Hannah said. "I'm asking you not to hand a 4-year-old a story she is not old enough to carry." We argued after my granddaughter went down for a nap. Hannah was shaking, but her words were clear. "She doesn't need to grow up thinking her aunt killed a baby," she said. "She doesn't need to be your audience for that story. It's not hers." "It's not a story," I said. "It's what happened." "It's the version you chose to live in," she said. I went along with it because I was drowning. I'm not doing that to her. After that, the supervision began in earnest. Visits with my granddaughter always have another adult present. If I drift toward the topic, the subject changes, or my granddaughter is led out of the room. Once, when I mentioned the lawsuit in passing, Hannah calmly removed her daughter to wash her hands and came back alone. "We're done with that topic," she said. "Those are your feelings. She doesn't need them." Hannah also kept going to therapy. The more she went, the more the language around me shifted. Phrases like family narrative and boundaries started appearing. She told me flat out that my access to her child would depend on my ability not to use that child as an outlet for my anger about the past. "You are not a victim of my boundaries," she said during one of our many arguments. "You are experiencing consequences." "For what?" I asked. "For loving you? For protecting you? For refusing to stop telling a version of events that you know is not the whole picture," she said. "For needing to be right more than you needed to be fair. For years. At church, I am still there every Sunday. People still say hello. But there is a thin film over it now. Some avoid bringing up what happened. Some gently redirect me if I start. One woman reminded me, not unkindly, 'Didn't you stand up and say it wasn't that simple?' As if that means I should never speak about it again. So here I am. No more court dates, but a sort of polite exile in my own family. I am allowed in, but not trusted all the way. I can hold my granddaughter's hand at the park, but not tuck her in without someone listening. I can talk about recipes and school and weather, but not about the night that divided our lives into before and after. The story that shaped me is now treated like a dangerous substance that has to be kept out of reach. People online would probably call this karma, or say that I am reaping what I sowed. Maybe from the outside, that's satisfying. From where I'm sitting, it feels like being punished indefinitely for refusing to lower my voice in the moment my family broke. You can call me controlling, dramatic, even a jerk. I know what I am. A mother who watched her child bleed, grabbed onto the one explanation she could live with, and refused to let go just because it made other people uncomfortable. Now I am living with the fallout of that, one supervised visit and one careful conversation at a time.